All right, we are starting the second half of Unit 2, Lesson 16 today. Our second half is going to be about something called a rational function. So a rational function, as it says here, is a function with a fraction in which there are polynomials in the numerator, the denominator, or both. So any function that has a fraction in the numerator, denominator, or both is known as a rational function. And we're going to look at an example through volume and surface area. We've talked about volume before. The volume is the amount of stuff you can fit on the inside of a three-dimensional object. The volume of a 2-liter soda bottle is 2 liters. The surface area is really what the name says. The surface area is how much stuff you can fit on the outside, around the surface of a three-dimensional object. And in this particular case, we're going to focus on cylinders, okay, for the sake of this example. So let's look at the first example here. Okay, assume that a cylinder has a volume of 452 cubic centimeters. Use the formula for volume and the given volume to create a rational function for height. Okay, so the key is what it says in the hint there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our formula for volume. So pi times r squared times h. And we're going to plug in 452 for v. So equals pi times r squared times h. So plug in 452 for v and solve for h. That means I need to rewrite this formula so that it says h equals something. So in order to get h by itself, here, I need to get rid of the pi and I need to get rid of the r squared. So in order to do that, okay, these three things all on the right-hand side here are all being multiplied. So to get rid of it, I have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I have to get rid of the pi, because it's being multiplied, I have to divide both sides by pi. If I divide the right-hand side by pi, then the pi's cancel, which is what I want. The pi's go away. But I also need to divide both sides by r squared. Because if I divide this by r squared, again, because it's being multiplied, that goes away, and I'm left with just h. So if I put that together, I end up with h equals 452 divided by pi times r squared. So this right here is a rational function for height. H equals 452 divided by r squared. Number 2, the formula for the surface area of a cylinder is S equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH. Use the formula and your answer from number 1 to create a rational function for the surface area of a cylinder with a volume of 452 cubic centimeters. So the key is we're going to use this. So we got h equals 452. So we have a expression for height. So I have this expression for height, and I have a height in the formula up here. So literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace h with what I got from number 1. Okay, so watch what I do here. So I'm going to take the formula, 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r. And I'm going to replace h with my answer from number 1. So 452 divided by pi r squared. Okay. And now I'm going to simplify this. Okay. Now this first part right here, this I can't simplify. So that has to stay. But I can simplify this part of the formula. Notice up top here, first thing I can do is I can actually extend this denominator. Okay. Notice I have a pi in the numerator and I have a pi in the denominator. What do you think those two things do to each other if I have a pi in the numerator and a pi in the denominator? Those things cancel out. Okay. Now, r squared, remember r squared is really r times r, right? R squared is really r times r. So there are two r's in the denominator. But I have one r in the numerator. So this one r in the numerator is going to cancel out one of the r's in the denominator, leaving me with one r in the denominator. So notice, what do I have left in the second term? I have 2 times 452. So I have that left in the numerator, 2 times 452. Okay, if I multiply that out and use a calculator if you need to, I have 904. And then what do I have left in the denominator? I have just r left. So my rational function, and again, this is a rational function because it has a polynomial in the numerator and the denominator. My rational function for surface area is this right here, 2 pi r squared plus 904 over r. Okay? Now, essentially what happened here, notice what happened was I ended up doubling my given volume of 452. I ended up doubling that, and that was in the numerator, and the radius, r, was in the denominator. So this right here is your answer to number 1, and this right here is your answer to number 2. Your cooldown tonight is going to look very similar to this. Obviously, the numbers are going to be different, but if you paid attention to this, you should be able to answer your cooldown for tonight.